It is indeed a great pleasure to have you join us on this episode of NAFDAC in Your Health. This program is brought to you by the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control, the agency charged with the responsibility of safeguarding the health of Nigerians. And on the show, the agency intimates you with our activities, policies, and programs geared towards the fulfillment of our mandates. I am Opejemi Urimolade. Today's episode of NAFDAC in Your Health focuses basically on the press briefing at the State House, Abuja, where the NAFDAC Director General, Professor Mojisola Adeyeye, spoke on the trajectory that led to the massive raids of the three major open drug markets in Aba, Abia State, Onitsha, Anambra State, and Idumota, Lagos State. The NAFDAC DG also gave details of the raids, the various concerns that have arisen as a result of the raids, as well as the way forward as the raids are being concluded. NAFDAC, in the last few weeks, has been preoccupied with decisive moves geared towards mitigating the menace of substandard and falsified drugs that have proliferated our society in recent times. The agency has always dealt with the challenge routinely, but more decisive and pragmatic approach became necessary as the menace remained unabated. The massive raids at the three major drug open markets at Ariara and Eziokwu markets in Aba, Abia State, Bridgehead Market, Onitsha, Anambra State, and Idumota in Lagos State unveiled a series of clandestine activities of unscrupulous dealers in life-threatening substandard and falsified products. In fact, the discoveries were frightening and overwhelming, making NAFDAC extend the raid beyond the envisaged duration. However, there have been reactions and counter-reactions on this move by NAFDAC, necessitating a press briefing during which the NAFDAC Director General addressed salient issues surrounding the massive raids of the drug open markets. The NAFDAC DG began by explaining that the effort was aimed at strengthening the regulatory framework and increase the confidence of consumers in the consumer products consumed. She added that ultimately the move was to protect trade and the citizenry.
The operation is an outcome of the strategic partnerships that NAFDAC has made and which is part of the National Action Plan 2.0. The planning of the highly confidential operation started in 2024 with a strong collaboration with the Office of the National Security Advisor, ONSA. The simultaneous exercise started on the 9th of February 2025 by cordoning off the three markets with 1,100 security forces, comprising the military, the police, and the DSS, with 350 security forces in Lagos, 400 forces in Onitsha, and 350 forces in Aba, with their accompanying vehicles and equipment. This large number of security personnel were deployed because of the perceived volatility of these locations and to control any violence or resistance that may arise during the exercise. The NSA duly informed the respective governors to ensure a buy-in. The teams in each of these locations commenced by holding a meeting with the members of the executives of the market union in each of these markets on the need to cooperate with enforcement officers from NAFDAC and Pharmacy Council of Nigeria, our sister agency that is also in charge of site license and practitioner license. The modus operandi and the protocols for the screening was communicated to the market executives. Part of the protocol is that any shop screened will be sealed with NAFDAC hold label and padlocked wherever there is offending product or non-NAFDAC regulated product. The executives were also directed to inform the owners to be available to open their shops when the enforcement team arrives at the location of their shops. The executives, market executives, in addition, constituted themselves into teams to work with NAFDAC and PCN teams to witness and record the activities in each shop or parking store or warehouse. Any premise that the owner did not show up to open the shop or the parking shop was forced open in the presence of the market executives. In such cases, there were video recordings. The offending products were put on an inventory, and letters of invitation which were signed and collected by the union executive for the shop owner for further investigation were thereafter issued. The Office of the National Security Advisor played the most significant or vital role in this collaboration by coordinating the military, police, and DSS to participate and to provide security for the operation, while NAFDAC planned with the security agencies on the closure of the markets. The simultaneous and coordinated closure of the three markets is considered the largest operation carried out by NAFDAC in the history of the agency, and it is to ensure full control of the enforcement operation and to prevent concealment and escape of any product from any open drug market to the other. NAFDAC deployed human and material resources to achieve the success recorded during the operation. NAFDAC staff in other locations were deployed to the three markets to screen all shops and or premises, because usually we do not have enough staff, so we have to take staff from different zones to Onitsha and Aba. All the shops in the markets were screened by NAFDAC officials, and all suspected substandard and falsified medical products were put on inventory and removed from the premises to our secured warehouses. During this exercise, NAFDAC succeeded in removing from circulation 87 truckloads of banned, expired, unregistered, suspected falsified substandard medical products from the three markets. Right now, we have screened over 7,000 shops, and it's still ongoing. A database of these shops and the offenses committed has been created for further steps. More than 40 arrests have been made, which will be followed by prosecution. The screening of shops ended on Tuesday, February 25, in Idumota and Aba. For the remaining period of the exercise, shops that have non-violative or non-NAFDAC regulated products are being reopened, while owners of such shops are being asked to sign undertakings that they agree to relocate to designated, coordinated wholesale center once such center is completed. Meanwhile, the operation continues in Onitsha. We are about 50% done in Onitsha Head Bridge. So it will be until next week, when similar process of opening the shops to non-violative shop owners and charging the violative ones accordingly will commence. Some of the products that we have confiscated are large quantities of pharmaceutical products, including vaccines, prescription-only medicines, and so on. These products were discovered stacked in toilets, under staircase, and rooftop at very high temperatures without consideration for cold chain storage requirements. So oxytocin injection and several thermolabile products or products that are susceptible to heat that were stored under extremely hot temperatures enough to denature such pharmaceuticals were found. The problem is not only about the originality of the products, but about the environment and storage. Products recommended to be stored at -8 degrees, -2 to 8 degrees centigrade were found in this hot environment. Large quantities of controlled drugs, such as tafradol, recently banned in India after BBC undercover exposure of the company manufacturing and exporting various illicit drugs to Africa, including Nigeria, were found. This drug combination has not been licensed anywhere in the world and outrightly banned for use in the European Union. Tramadol, flunitrazepam or rofinol, nitrazepam, and diazepam that have been fueling insecurity in the country were found in all the markets. The volume of narcotics and controlled substances seized from each of these locations are enough to destabilize the country security-wise. Large quantities of donated antiretroviral drugs, expired female and male condoms by USAID, UNFPA were also found. Huge quantities of banned, unregistered, expired products found in the plumbing and wood plank sections of the head bridge in Onitsha. Warehouses filled to the brim with such drugs listed above without windows, and where temperature could be as high as 40 degrees centigrade, a high potential for chemical degradation of the products into less effective and toxic degradants were also found.
The NAFDAC DG also called for stiffer penalty for offenders caught engaging in the criminal act.
We use this opportunity to call on the National Assembly to expedite the amendment of the NAFDAC Act N1-LFN 2004 and the Counterfeit and Fake Drugs and Unwholesome Processed Foods C-34 Act to include life sentence and death penalty in the penalties for crimes committed under these acts. This exercise that we are doing is purely an enforcement operation to protect the public and rid our country of falsified and substandard medical products.
We hope you are enjoying NAFDAC and your health. The program continues shortly.
NAFDAC wishes to sensitize the general public on the detrimental effect of alcohol consumption by underage. Underage drinking can result in psychosocial and health problems like poor academic performance, increase in crime rate, alcohol dependency, mental health disorder, cardiovascular problems, kidney and liver diseases, and even death. NAFDAC advises parents and guardians to stop the exposure of young people below 18 to alcohol by asking them to sell or purchase it. For more enlightenment on NAFDAC activities, watch NAFDAC and Your Health program every Monday 6:30 p.m. to 7 p.m. on TVC and every Tuesday 8 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. on NTA. NAFDAC, safeguarding the health of the nation.
Welcome back. You're still tuned to NAFDAC and your health. Fielding questions from the men of the press at the press briefing, Professor Mojisola Adeyeye spoke about how substandard, falsified and illicit drugs get into the country, how this could be curbed, as well as the link between illicit drug and terrorism.
In terms of entry of the drugs into our country, if we watch what Governor Soludo said, is that these drugs are not spirit. They came into the country through borders and ports. And I've often said that it takes a village to raise a child. It doesn't take only NAFDAC and PCN to ensure that we have sanity in our drug distribution, or we mitigate substandard falsified medicines. So this is part of the reason why we now have strategic partnerships with ONSA, National Security Advisors Office, with Customs, with NDLEA, even with our own sister agency, Pharmacy Council of Nigeria. And a product of this strategic partnership is what we are witnessing. I'm talking now almost every other day with the CG Customs. We have to put our heads together in terms of making sure that the health of our people is premium in whatever we are doing. In terms of linking of illicit drug to terrorism, when I resumed in NAFDAC 2017 November, my first 6 months were spent on running after tramadol. Because at that point in our history, NAFDAC was not at the ports. NAFDAC was removed from the ports from 2011 to May 16, 2018. So Nigeria became a haven for illicit drugs, unregistered drugs, because the agency that was mandated to control import exportation was removed for 7 years. Tramadol was being rained on us, literally being rained on us as a country. And that was when I went to NSA. But at that point also was the peak of suicide bombing in Nigeria, especially Abuja. And what the NSA found was that they tested the tissue of some of these suicide bombers and found tramadol there. Because what illicit drugs do is to alter the personality of the user. So their mind is completely altered. That's why they can tie bomb around themselves. So there is direct link between the abuse of drugs or use of illicit drugs to terrorism. That is part of the reason why the NSA decided to donate 1,100 forces for this particular operation.
Professor Mojisola Adeyeye lamented the alarming rate of proliferation of the Nigerian society by substandard and falsified drugs, a rate which is not matched by any country in the world.
There is no country that has open markets like Nigeria in the world. We have the largest open market in the world, where anybody can get any drug at any time. And as part of our own strengthening of regulatory system, what we are doing now is just one aspect of our regulatory strengthening. We are expected to have what is called market control. We started a journey of comparing ourselves with the best regulatory agencies in the world, what is called WHO Global Benchmarking. And for that global benchmarking tools, there are 9 modules. One of them is market control, meaning the products that are coming into your country, you are able to track them through the product life cycle. You are in control of where they are. Why is that so important? It is important because of the life of our people first, because of trade.
The NAFDAC DG gave high commendation to the President, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, for taking a step that gave a leeway for NAFDAC to take the strides that is helping to put the menace of substandard and falsified drugs under control.
To talk of President Ahmed Bola Tinubu, the executive order that he pronounced last year in terms of local manufacturing, if we don't do what we are doing, we'll just be manufacturing for ourselves. That doesn't translate to improving our economy. So this is part and parcel of what President Tinubu had in mind when he had the executive order.
The fight to curb the menace of substandard and falsified drugs, according to the NAFDAC DG, has not been without challenges and sacrifices. The NAFDAC DG also expressed their appreciation to the governors of Abia, Anambra, and Lagos states for being so supportive, particularly in spite of the pressure that has been on the agency from the political class since the massive raid of the open drug market began.
Before we started the operation, I made sure that the NSAs would speak on our behalf to the governors, because it is their constituencies and they have to face the people. So the NSA contacted the governors, but I would say that I've been fortunate to have the three governors as cerebral, despite the fact that we are in their states to enforce. Professor Soludo said NAFDAC came to save them from themselves. To me, that is fortunate for a regulatory agency. The same thing with Governor Otti. But at the same time, they're getting pressure from their constituents. And I understand that. And I've made it very, very plain, we are not against trade. The political pressure is there, but the governors have been able to convey to their constituents that this is temporary, and they are ready to build coordinated wholesale center or do a PPP partnership to build coordinated wholesale center where we can monitor what is going on.
When asked about the way forward as the raids wind up, the NAFDAC DG has this to say.
After the operation, NAFDAC and Pharmacy Council of Nigeria, PCN, plan the relocation of these markets within the next 1 year to the planned coordinated wholesale center in the different cities. There will be 6 of such CWCs across the country, but right now we have 4. One in Kano, which is already completed, and we forcefully relocated the open marketers in Kano to the Kanawa Coordinated Wholesale Center in Kano. The other 3 will be in Idumota or in Lagos, Aba, and Onitsha.
This is where we'll draw the curtains on this episode of the program. We hope you have been informed and enlightened on how to stay healthy. Another insightful package of the program will be brought to you next week. You can reach out to us if you have comments, complaints, reports, and observations, as these will further help us in our efforts to safeguard public health.
You can reach NAFDAC via toll-free numbers. For inquiries, call 0700 162 3322. For complaints, call 0800 162 3322. You may also email nafdac@nafdac.gov.ng. If you have complaints about any form of misconduct, you can reach the Reforms Unit via email reforms@nafdac.gov.ng or call the Reforms hotlines on 0909 763-0506 or 0909-763-0507. NAFDAC, customer focused, agency minded.
Don't forget, it is criminal to import, produce, distribute, or sell unwholesome food products, expired drugs, adulterated or substandard cosmetics, and unapproved or substandard medical devices or chemicals. These acts pose serious threats to public health. Join us. Let's eradicate these acts so that our society can remain healthy. Till we come your way again next week. Bye for now.